Wow, thank you so much to the worship team for leading us this morning, and thank you so much for joining us. And now we're going to take some time and look into God's Word. So, I absolutely love to read the accounts of Jesus. Each story recorded where he interacted with people is filled with wonder. He constantly amazed people with his words, his miracles, his love, the way that he turned cultural and religious expectations on their head. And the story of Zacchaeus, well, it may be a familiar one. It's certainly one I loved as a child. We even had a cute Sunday school song to go along with it, but don't worry, I will save you from hearing me have to sing that today. But sometimes we may gloss over these familiar stories, or maybe for you, this is a brand new story and you've never heard it before. Either way, I want you to come with me today. Enter into this story, allow your heart and imagination to bring this story alive. And if you want to follow along, it's found in Luke 19, verses 1 to 10. So Jesus is entering Jericho, and there's a crowd of people. And Jesus often drew crowds, whether it was people who were looking for a miracle or people who were looking to trap him. He was often surrounded by people. And here we meet Zacchaeus. So, what do we know of Zacchaeus? Well, we read that he was a chief tax collector in the region. This is the only time this title is used throughout the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So needless to say, people knew who this guy was, and they didn't like him. He would have been despised by most people. Tax collectors cheated people. They collected more money than was necessary, and they kept it for themselves. They were known for cheating and stealing, and this guy was the chief tax collector. He made himself rich by exploiting others, and he probably was the one who hired the other tax collectors who did the same. We also know that he was very short. He couldn't see Jesus over the crowd. Have you ever been there in a crowd, and it's been a while, I know, but maybe you're straining, but your view is blocked, so you strain this way and then that way. Maybe you get up on your tippy toes. If you're a child, maybe your grown-up will lift you on their shoulders so you can get a better view. Well, Zacchaeus couldn't get on anyone's shoulders, but he did find another solution, a tree. So he ran ahead, which was actually very unusual for a man to run during this time, especially a wealthy one. But Zacchaeus was motivated by Jesus. He was curious. John Calvin wrote these words, "Curiosity and simplicity are a sort of preparation for faith." Are you curious? So he climbs this tree with its wide branches that will give him a clear view of Jesus as he passed by. Now, can you imagine? Zacchaeus was this well-known, rich chief tax collector running and climbing a tree. Did the crowd look on in confusion? Did anyone notice? Or were they too busy watching Jesus? We don't know for sure, but we do know that someone noticed Zacchaeus up in that tree. When Jesus walked by, he stopped and he looked up in that tree. And it says, when Jesus came by, he looked up at Zacchaeus and called him by name. Jesus looks at this despised, untrustworthy individual and calls him by name. Right from the beginning, Jesus makes it personal. He sees Zacchaeus and he speaks directly into his life. Zacchaeus was motivated to see Jesus, but Jesus was on a mission to meet with Zacchaeus. "Zacchaeus," he said, "quick, come down. I must be a guest in your home today." Zacchaeus quickly climbed down and took Jesus to his house in great excitement and joy. And this is the only recorded instance where Jesus actually invites himself into someone's home. He had a clear mission and a purpose with Zacchaeus. And we see that Zacchaeus responds with great joy, because when you meet Jesus, joy is sure to follow. So Zacchaeus scurried down from this tree and he took Jesus into his home. He wanted just a glimpse of Jesus, but this day he received so much more. And the people did not like this. They were displeased. Not just the religious leaders, as we often see the ones getting upset, but everyone seemed to grumble and complain. You can imagine the disbelief of the crowd. Of all the things they may have hoped to see Jesus do today, it probably was not this, to be the guest of a notorious sinner. This guy was not well liked, and he had a bad reputation that he had no doubt earned. But Jesus knew this. He knew all about Zacchaeus. He knew his name, his choices, his reputation, his heart. Indeed, he was looking for Zacchaeus that day with mission and with purpose. And Zacchaeus was indeed changed. He was motivated to see Jesus, so much so that he runs and he climbs a tree, putting his status and the cultural expectations aside. When Jesus called him down and invited himself to Zacchaeus' home, we see that he received him with great excitement and joy. And then he stands before Jesus and declares, "I will give half of my wealth to the poor, Lord, and if I have cheated people on their taxes, I will give them back 4 times as much." At the time, there were laws that were clear on how much you had to pay back when you had cheated someone. And Zacchaeus didn't just pay back what was required, but he went above and beyond. He said he would give away half of his wealth. Not only that, but anyone who had robbed, which given he was a chief tax collector, it was probably a lot, he would have to pay back the highest penalty that the law allows. The normal requirement would have been 20%, but he decided to pay back 4-fold that amount. He went above and beyond. And Jesus responds, "Salvation has come to this home today, for this man has shown himself to be a true son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost." Now, it's important to understand that Zacchaeus was not saved because he was willing to pay back those he robbed or give away his wealth. We see, of course, that his heart was in the right place, but his actions and his generosity didn't save him. It was his response to Jesus. Jesus called him a true son of Abraham. It was through faith that Zacchaeus received salvation. And it is here where we see Jesus' mission so clearly. Many people believe this verse is the key verse in this entire book of Luke. For the Son of Man came to seek and save those who are lost. Jesus knew that Zacchaeus was lost, that he needed a savior. Jesus doesn't care how bad your reputation is, how despised you are, or what you have done. He has come for you. And as humans, we often have different reactions to this. One may be one of revolt, that this isn't fair, that Zacchaeus exploited people, he stole, he made himself rich off the backs of citizens, that Zacchaeus did not deserve this salvation. He would really be the villain of the movie that people love to hate. Yet, this is the amazing grace of God. None of us deserve it, but Jesus came for us anyway. Or maybe your reaction is one that identifies with Zacchaeus. You've made poor decisions. Maybe you've hurt people. You're lonely, disconnected from relationships with others, wondering if anyone knows your name, and you can't quite see what you're looking for. But Jesus does. He knows everything about you, every hair on your head, every thought, every choice, every consequence. And he calls your name and invites you into relationship with him, offering grace, mercy, hope, freedom, salvation, the kind of grace that we feel we may not deserve, but Jesus offers it because he gave his life for you, and it's only through him that we can receive true life. So whether you're climbing a tree, curious about this Jesus, or hiding under a rock in shame and loneliness, Jesus calls your name and offers you this life, no strings attached. This doesn't mean that this everlasting abundant life didn't cost anything. It cost Jesus his life. God had this rescue plan for humanity because we were separated from him. And when Jesus died on the cross, he took your sin, your shame, your pain, and mine, and he became the sacrifice. He took it so you wouldn't have to, and he defeated it. He defeated sin, death, and shame, and he rose again in victory. And now this life is offered to you for free. We just have to receive it by faith. And the result is life change. Because when you walk in relationship with Jesus, your heart changes. Your life changes. This doesn't mean that you're all of a sudden perfect and will never make a mistake, but you have decided to take a new path in life. Your life takes on a new trajectory. And that at the center of your life, your decisions, is Jesus. And when we mess up, because we will, we're human, Jesus is there to pick you back up and set you back on his path to continue growing in your relationship with him. You see, faith isn't about religion. We often have this idea that it's just a list of rules and restrictions, but it isn't. On the other hand, this may make some of us uncomfortable that it must have rules. It can't just be free, that's dangerous ground and a slippery slope. But when you live in relationship with Jesus, when you accept his unbounding grace into your life, the result is life change. You will make different choices because the Holy Spirit does a refining work in our lives that a list of rules never could. We are led by the Spirit, and we see this so clearly with the story of Zacchaeus. In Romans 2, verses 4, we read, "Don't you see how wonderfully kind, tolerant, and patient God is with you? Does this mean nothing to you? Can't you see that his kindness is intended to turn you from your sins? You see, it's his kindness that leads to repentance. God was so kind to us, and it's that kindness that draws us to him. His kindness changes us, and a natural outflow of receiving God's kindness is to show other people kindness. For Zacchaeus, he makes this bold declaration, and a life that was once marked by deceit now flows with generosity. I read this week that saving faith is more than pious words and devout feelings. It creates a living union that results in a changed life. Jesus changed his life. He didn't demand that Zacchaeus pay back what he had stolen, yet Zacchaeus does. Because when you meet Jesus, your life will change and you will produce a new kind of fruit. When you are filled with his perfect love, the love will overflow out of your heart. And imagine the impact. I mean, the story ends here, but branch out with me for a moment and imagine Zacchaeus knocking on the doors of those he had stolen from and paying them back 4 times more. People may have heard about Jesus calling Zacchaeus out of the tree. Maybe they scoffed about it, complained about it. Yet when they see this life change, the kindness and generosity of Zacchaeus, they must have been stunned that maybe there really was something to this faith in Jesus thing. Because Zacchaeus met Jesus and his life was totally changed. Jesus came to seek and save the lost, and he has been so kind to us. So what does this story or this narrative mean for us today? Well, it gives us a beautiful example of how Jesus changes people's lives. When we put our faith in him, we can receive hope, salvation, freedom, life. That Jesus seeks after you. He knows your name. And when we meet him, our lives are changed. And when our lives are filled with the love and kindness of God, we will have a natural outflow of kindness, love, generosity. In a few weeks as a church, we're going to have an opportunity to be kind together, to be kind to our neighbors, our communities in a very tangible way. And I'm so excited for the impact that we can have when we come together and practically show kindness. So keep your eyes open for more information about that. But of course, you don't have to wait for that to be kind. But let's have a question for you today. Have you ever wondered about the impact of a generous life? Just this week, I listened to beautiful tributes and messages being shared by a beloved pastor, Pastor George Dye, who had passed away, and to his family, on behalf of my family, I extend our deepest condolences, and we've been praying for you guys during this time. And after the service was over, I sat reflecting for a few moments, and what became so clear to me was when you live your life with an open, generous heart, you can have a greater impact than you ever dreamed. That was certainly the case with Pastor Dye. His life and his legacy is truly inspiring. You see, we all have something to give, and we can either hold on to it with a tight fist or realize that when you open your life and live it with open-handed kindness and generosity, and you invite others into it, that you'll have a ripple effect into the lives of so many people. And that impact of your life can change someone else's. So don't underestimate the impact of your kindness on the life of another. In the church I grew up in, these words were on the wall. It said, "Small things done in love will change the world." And this may have been inspired by Mother Teresa's words, "We cannot all do great things, but we can do small things with great love." But I really do believe this. And as we heard from Pastor Crystal last week, when Jesus was asked what was the greatest commandment, the answer was to love the Lord your God with all your heart, your mind, your soul, and your strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. All of the laws are summed up in that. And I think that love is the most powerful force in the world. So I encourage you this week, don't count yourself out. If you're in a place where you feel unseen, unloved, uncertain, Jesus desperately and perfectly loves you. You can put your faith in him. He's there to meet you wherever you are, even now. And it's so important to connect with a faith community because we shouldn't do life alone. If you're uncertain of your purpose or you don't know what you have to offer, don't count yourself out. You have something that only you can give. You may never know the impact of your life, your gifts, your talents. But I encourage you today to live generously because it's worth it, to live life with an open hand and an open heart. In John 13, verses 34 to 35, we read, "So now I'm giving you a new commandment. Love each other. Just as I have loved you, you should love each other. Your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples. They will know you by your love." Jesus said it was our love that will prove that we are his disciples, not our fill in the blank, but our love. It's God's kindness that draws us to repentance, and we are to be known by our love. And as I conclude today, I wanted to read a part of Zacchaeus' story from the Jesus Storybook Bible. I'm a children's pastor after all. And as we enter into this narrative, just enter in with me today with an open heart and a mind, because sometimes hearing a story from a different angle gives us a new perspective. And this is picking up after Jesus called Zacchaeus down from the tree. The people saw this, and needless to say, it made them even crosser and grumpier than usual. They mumbled and murmured and muttered, "Why is Jesus being kind to that big sinner? Doesn't Jesus know about him?" Zacchaeus scrambled down and took Jesus into his house. He was in a big hurry because he didn't want Jesus to change his mind. Perhaps Jesus hadn't heard about him. Perhaps Jesus didn't know about he had been stealing, how no one liked him, and how he didn't have any friends. But Jesus knew. He knew all about Zacchaeus and the stealing and everything, and he still loved him. Zacchaeus was ashamed. "Lord," he said, turning pale, "what I've done is wrong, but now I want to do the right thing. I will give the money back to everyone, 4 times what I stole." And that's just what he did. Jesus smiled. "My friend," he said, "today God has rescued you." Jesus loved Zacchaeus when nobody else did. He was Zacchaeus' friend even when no one else was, because Jesus was showing people what God's love was like. His wonderful, never stopping, never giving up, unbreaking, always and forever love. And now we get to show others what God's wonderful, never stopping, never giving up, unbreaking, always and forever love is all about. And as the worship team comes back and leads us into another song, I have this question to leave to challenge you, to challenge myself. In a world where we can be known for anything, what do you want to be known for? Let's take some time to really pray about this, to think about it, and then to be propelled into action. Because as Jesus said, your love for one another will prove to the world that you are my disciples.